Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle and I draw abstract and geometric patterns. I do lots of draw with me videos, but today I'm going to do something a little different. While I draw, I'm going to talk about books. More specifically, I'm going to talk about the books that I read in 2023. This is a video that I meant to make at the beginning of this year, but you know what, I'm just now getting around to it, so let's get into it. So on Goodreads, I set my reading goal at 45 books, and I ended up reading 42. I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but for whatever reason, when I get around October, my reading slows way down. I don't know if it's because of the holiday season. This happened to me last year as well. I got so close to my reading goal, but then October came around, and now I'm watching horror movies. Or my baking shows during the holidays. I read a lot of books that I really liked, but if I had to choose one favorite, I would say Where Ivy Dares to Grow by Mary L. Thompson. I could not put this book down. This book is about Saoirse Reed, who travels to her fiancé's ancestral home to be with his dying mother, but finds herself met with hostility from his family. As she wanders the neglected estate's gardens, she is transported back to 1818, where she meets Theo Page, a man resembling her fiancé but with a softer demeanor. As Saoirse navigates the blurred lines between past and present, she questions her own perceptions and struggles to discern reality from dreams in the crumbling halls of Langdon Hall. So I'm an absolute sucker for books about time traveling, and this delivered. In the blurb for this book, it said it's Mexican Gothic meets Outlander, and it had me at Outlander because that's my favorite show. Not only was it a really great romance, but there was also a big conversation about mental health. And I don't want to give too much away, so you should just go read this book because it's great. My favorite nonfiction book that I read last year was The Butchering Art by Lindsay Fitzharris. In The Butchering Art, historian Lindsay Fitzharris explores the grim world of 19th century surgery on the cusp of significant change. She vividly depicts early operating theaters and surgeons working without anesthesia, celebrated for their speed and strength. Amidst high mortality rates due to infections, Joseph Lister, Quaker surgeon, emerges as a pivotal figure. Fitzharris details Lister's groundbreaking discoveries, particularly his assertion that germs caused infections and could be combated with antiseptics. Set between 1850 and 1875, the book introduces Lister and his contemporaries, delving into the gritty medical schools, hospitals, and graveyards of the time. The Butchering Art chillingly illustrates the transformative journey of a visionary surgeon who revolutionized medicine. Again, this was a book that I could not put down. If you're into morbid facts and history, then I think you would really like this book. But be warned though, if you're squeamish, that's all I'm gonna say. Read at your own risk. There was a little bit at the end of the book where they talk about American surgeons, and as I'm sitting there reading, I thought to myself, yeah, this sounds very American, this checks out. But yeah, I'm not gonna give it away. Go check this book out. My most anticipated read for 2023 was Mary by Nat Cassidy. In this gripping tale, Mary, a seemingly unassuming middle-aged woman, grapples with unsettling changes as she navigates through life. Haunted by disturbing visions and mysterious voices, she's propelled on a journey back to her hometown in search for answers. However, her quest for self-discovery takes a dark turn when she uncovers settling connections to a notorious serial killer. As the killings resurface, Mary finds herself drawn into a chilling game of cat and mouse, where she must confront her inner demons to survive. In a thrilling twist of fate, Mary's journey promises to unravel the enigmatic secrets of her past and reveal her true identity. So I had heard about this book on TikTok from a booktalker that I follow, whose recommendations I usually love. So I had big hopes for this book. It sounded really interesting, and let me just say, I started this book in September and I'm still not finished with it. I am very much struggling to get through this book. I have the physical copy, read some of that, was struggling, so I checked out the audiobook on Libby, and I honestly don't know if that was worse than reading the physical book, but yeah, I still haven't finished it. This was my most anticipated book, and it just might be my most disappointing book of 2023. I don't have the best attention span, probably have TikTok to thank for that, so this book, it just felt like there was a whole lot of nothing going on, and it was very slow paced, so that really wasn't working for me, and it was just very bizarre. I like weird stuff, but I don't know, something about this wasn't doing it for me. So we'll see if I'm able to finish it. I think I had maybe less than 3 hours left on the audiobook, so we'll see. And with that, let's move on to my least favorite book of the year, and that was Fierce Kingdom by Jen Phillips. In Fierce Kingdom, Joan and her son find themselves in a harrowing situation at the zoo, prompting Joan to take swift and decisive action to keep them safe. As they navigate the zoo's familiar terrain, Joan's maternal instincts are put to the ultimate test as she grapples with the balance between survival and protection. The novel unfolds over the course of 3 intense hours, capturing the tension and urgency of the ordeal. Through a masterful blend of suspense and exploration of motherhood, Fierce Kingdom raises profound questions about the nature of instinct and duty in the face of danger. It prompts the reader to consider the sacrifices a mother is willing to make to ensure the safety of her and her child. So I'm one of those people that reads a book, either loves it or hates it, and then moves on to the next book and completely forgets everything that I had read in past books. But this book I remember being so boring. I heard this at the beginning of the year, I think. This one just aggravated me. I'm gonna give a little bit of a spoiler here. Maybe skip ahead if you don't want to hear this. This book involves a shooting at a zoo. And at first I wasn't really sure if I wanted to read this, a little too close to home, but I listened to the audiobook expecting this to be really intense, and it was actually the opposite of intense. Let's just go back to my Goodreads review. This is what I wrote. Maybe a 1.5. I feel bad giving a book that rating, but how could a book about this topic be so boring and uneventful? I almost quit listening to the audiobook when Joan went on and on about the roaches in her childhood home. The interactions with the villains didn't create much suspense or tension for me, and I feel like there was no resolution at the end. It was very slow for most of the book, but picked up a bit in the last hour or so. It was boring. There was no suspense at all. And that bit about the roaches in the home, that was a snooze fest. I'm sorry, but I did not need to hear about the roaches in your home when we were with our son hiding from a shooter. No, it was so boring. I feel bad talking about a book that way, but what are you gonna do? I definitely understand that being a parent in that situation with your child would be absolutely terrifying, but the writing, it was not giving. It was not giving suspenseful. So there were 6 books that I rated 5 stars on Goodreads, and those were Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, The Butchering Art by Lindsay Fitzharris, Twice in a Lifetime by Melissa Barron, Where Ivy Dares to Grow by Marielle Thompson, and Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I'll try and give a quick little synopsis about some of the ones I haven't talked about yet. In Dark Matter, Jason Dessen's ordinary life takes a terrifying turn when he's abducted and wakes up in a reality where everything he knows has changed. Struggling to discern between the world he remembers and the one he's trapped in, Jason embarks on a journey of self-discovery and survival. As he confronts unimaginable challenges and battles against a formidable adversary, Jason grapples with the darkest aspects of himself. With its blend of wonder and horror, Dark Matter explores the boundaries of reality and the lengths one man will go to reclaim the life he loves. This one was, I would say, accessible sci-fi. It was very easy to follow as somebody who doesn't really read sci-fi, and there was a little bit of romance in it, which, gotta have a little romance. And there's a TV show coming out based off of this book on Apple TV, which I'm very excited to start watching. In Yours Truly, Dr. Brianna Ortiz finds herself in a downward spiral with a pending divorce, her brother's health crisis, and workplace tensions looming. However, her perspective shifts when she receives a heartfelt letter from Dr. Jacob Maddox, sparking an unexpected connection. Despite initial misgivings, Brianna discovers Jacob's endearing qualities through their correspondence and shared moments. As the relationship deepens, Jacob's selfless offer to donate a kidney to Brianna's brother presents a moral dilemma and further complicates their burgeoning romance. In this heartwarming tale, Brianna navigates love, forgiveness, and the unexpected twists of fate. I think I vaguely remember what happens in this book, but I would literally eat up anything by Abby Jimenez. She is so good, so I highly recommend pretty much any book by her if you're into romance. Black Sheep is about Vesper Ripe, who is a cynical 20-something and is compelled to confront her unconventional family's dark secrets. Despite leaving her religious community behind, Vesper receives an unexpected invitation to her cousin's wedding at the family farm, prompting her to revisit her toxic past. Reuniting with her mother, Constance, a former horror film star, unravels terrifying truths that force Vesper to reckon with her family's beliefs and her own crisis of faith. This sinister tale explores the complexities of family ties and the struggle to find one's place in the world amidst secrets and darkness. I absolutely loved this book. Rachel Harrison is another author who I'll eat it up. Everything she puts out, I love. I had expectations about what the religion would be in this book, but there's one line at the beginning that I was shook. I don't think I was really expecting it. I loved it. Twice in a Lifetime is about Isla, who flees to small-town Missouri to escape a difficult year marked by chronic anxiety. Unexpectedly, she receives text from someone claiming to be her husband from the future, Ewan, who is desperate to alter their fate. As the relationship unfolds through text, Isla grapples with self-acceptance and happiness in the present while questioning the implications for her future with Ewan. Barron's time-crossed romance offers a compelling protagonist and an engaging plot that builds to a breathtaking conclusion, keeping readers hooked until the very end. I loved this book. Once again, I love a time slip romance. Oh, it's so good. Kind of sad, and I honestly don't remember the ending. I think there's a happy ending. Either way, it was so good. There were 20 books that I gave 4 stars on Goodreads. I won't go through all of them, but I'll list a few. And some of them were The Witch of Willow Hall by Hester Fox, Sign Here by Claudia Lux, Slewfoot by Brom, The Widow of Pale Harbor by Hester Fox, Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison, The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden, The Return by Rachel Harrison, The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell, Recursion by Blake Crouch, and The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Miquelon. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I really liked Sign Here. I thought it was really interesting. This one is about a deal maker who works on the 5th floor of hell, and if he can sign 5 generations of souls in a particular family, then he gets a second shot at his own life. And then there's also some family drama in there. Slewfoot was a really fun one to listen to on audio. The vibes were immaculate. It's set in 1666 Connecticut. There's a witch trial, some paranormal vibes, and a woman getting revenge on a patriarchal society. In the physical book, the author also has some really cool illustrations to go along with his characters. The Quiet Tenant is about a serial killer named Aiden, who is a beloved figure in his small town where he lives, so already I'm just like, ugh. Like, of course he is. But the story is told from the perspective of Rachel, who has been imprisoned in his backyard shed, and also from the perspective of his 13-year-old daughter, Cecilia, and from the perspective of Emily, who Aiden starts seeing. So the story is about how Rachel fights to survive. One of the books that I read because of the hype was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I know there's a lot of hype around this author, and this was the first one that I read by him, and it was not at all what I was expecting. This one is about 2 adult siblings who are cleaning out their late parents' home, and their mother had a lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. This book was probably one of the most bizarre things I had ever listened to in audio. It was weird. I don't think I gave a rating to this one on Goodreads. I honestly didn't know what to think when I finished it, but it definitely was entertaining, and the audiobook was pretty good. I remember one chapter about the brothers' experience with this puppet, and the whole thing felt like a fever dream. My favorite author discoveries for last year obviously are Rachel Harrison. If you couldn't tell by now, I really love her. And Marielle Thompson, who wrote Where Ivy Dares to Grow. That was her first book, but she has a new one coming out pretty soon, and I'm so excited to read her next book. Books that transported you to another time or place would be, again, Where Ivy Dares to Grow, The Witch of Willow Hall by Hester Fox, Slewfoot by Brom, and The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. I really love historical fiction, and I feel like the imagery in these books did a really good job at making me feel like I was in the past. And of course, this is an art channel, so I have to talk about my favorite book covers. I very much will judge a book by its cover, and these books had covers that caught my eye. So any book by Hester Fox, her covers are chef's kiss. The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell, 10 out of 10. I love a spooky 1800s vibe. And The Butchering Art by Lindsay Fitzharris. The cover of that book is a painting by artist Thomas Eakins, and in this painting it shows the American surgeon Samuel Gross, who is not convinced of the efficacy of antiseptics. So this is what that painting reflects. So that is it for my 2023 reading wrap up. Let me know if you liked this type of video. Even if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs up because this took forever to edit and record voiceover for. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.